also known as the Cowboy's wife. I'm no expert on anything and I don't claim to be, but I have been alive for 56 years, so I have some funny stories. Come saddle up with me and take a ride, and maybe I can make you laugh or smile or cry or give you something to just think about that day. Let's do this. Hey everyone, Trish Charleston here, also known as the Cowboy's wife. And my book is here. So I'm pretty excited about it. Stay Hooked is done and it's out, and I've been getting some good feedback. And it was funny because when it was happening and when I was writing, and it took me a couple years to write this book, actually longer than that, because I was traveling with Emma. My first 3 books were all just short stories, and so they were just like inspirational things. They started out as funny farm stories, and then, which I still write about. And if you listen to or if you read my blog and my Facebook page, then you understand how I write. And my books are very similar to what I post. In fact, most of my first 3 books were just blog posts, and they're very short stories, easy to read, kind of like chicken soup for the soul. And so when I was traveling with Emma, rodeoing a couple years ago, gosh, it may be 3 now, when we had Makana. Well, I went with her forever, but when she started really doing the pro rodeo stuff, I just had this idea. I'll never forget. I remember I was sitting in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and I just had this idea at the Pink or Ruby Buckle, and I thought, I can write a book about this. I think I can do this. I think I can, I could see a story with a theme, just a thread, and, from a beginning to end. And it was exciting for me because I'd never been able to do that. And I didn't think it was something that could do, like a chapter book, an actual chapter book, because writing short stories was so much easier for me. And so it was a challenge. And so when I started, it just kept going forever. And as you know, rodeo goes on forever. And so this story's really still writing itself, but my part of it is done. And so I was so wrapped up in it, and I had worked on it for so long. And then I hired coaches, which were, if you're trying to do anything in life and you want to get better, you hire a coach. And so I did that, and I hired 2 of the best in the world. I mean, Bob Goff is a world-renowned author and just a rock star human being. And Kimberly Stewart is, I don't even know how many books Kim's written, but so many. And they coached me through this process, and it was it was hard. And I loved having the meetings with them, and I loved going to the Oaks in California with other writers, and because it was so nice to be around people that knew what I was feeling. Because when I was writing, the sad part, or the hardest part for me, was that nobody in my family does this. I mean, nobody in my entire family cares about writing, or they're not necessarily artistic. So it was super hard, and you felt really alone. And I didn't have a lot of support. Not that they didn't support what I was doing. Obviously, the Cowboy allowed, we paid for me to do this. And it took a lot of time from the ranch. He had to hire extra people, when I wasn't available, because I was writing constantly. And we had lots of fights about, me not working on bull stuff, and I needed to be doing that because I was writing on, other things. And so he finally just allowed me to do it. And the piece that came with that was unexplainable. I mean, it was when I finally got a chance to just do it and not have the burden of all this other stuff, weighing way easier. But it was still a really lonely effort, because nobody knows what it's like to do it if you haven't done it. And you don't know how hard it is, because you pour your heart and soul in this thing. And then when it's finally done, and so Bob hooked me up with Blue Hat Publishing, and they were the ones that published the book, and they were tickled to do it. And it's a boutique publishing company. Publishing is very different now, thanks to the internet. And I mean, anybody can write a book and put it on Amazon and publish it and do it yourself, and it doesn't cost anything. But I promise you, when you do something like that, you have no accountability. And that's just like with life. I mean, you don't think that you want accountability, or a coach or someone pointing out your flaws, but the only way to get better at anything is to have someone doing those very things. And I honestly think that's part of the Christian walk, our faith walk. If we are never searching or never trying to get better at things, just being a human being. I mean, I'm trying to be a better human being every day. I do the best I can to try to be better. And I fail miserably. For example, I was on the phone with my sister yesterday and I, dropped a bomb, and she's just started cracking up laughing. And she's like, I have never, I have not, you do not talk that way. And I'm like, well, obviously you've not worked cows with me, but, or just, been in the house on a daily basis. Sometimes I do. I don't like it about myself. But I say bad words, especially when someone's, hurting my family. I'm going to probably drop some bombs. But she just thought it was hilarious. I said, Stephanie, I'm just a person. I mean, I'm still just a person. But I am trying to do better. And so when I got this done, and it was so hard, it was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, which sounds stupid, but it was awful, because you pour your heart and soul and then people just rip it apart, and then and then at that point I was like, what, is this even good? I'd read it for so long and worked on it for so long. I honestly didn't even like anything about it at that. I didn't even think I was telling a story. And so then the pre-sale started, and for those of you that have pre-sale ordered the book, I know how confusing it is, and I'm sorry for that. I'm hoping that they do better at this in the future, because if you're not just an avid reader, you don't understand the pre-sale. That book hasn't even been printed yet when the pre-sale orders start. It is at the printer. So you are literally at the mercy of the printer of when it is released and when the person gets it in their hands to ship it to you. And so I am still waiting. I have the book now, but you've all paid for shipping and handling and all these things that they're sending to me. And so I'm having to wait. Plus I'm having to sign all these books and, get rodeo athletes to sign the books and get them shipped to you to do the things that I've, promised that I would do. So it's happening, but it's just going to be, a little bit longer than I'd anticipated. So, anyway, when the pre-sale started, I started getting all these emails, and it would tell me when somebody bought a book. And I was super excited because I was getting emails showing that somebody was buying the book. So that was exciting. And they say that 10% of authors never sell more than 100 books. Well, that is depressing. So if you've never more than 100 books. Well, my first book I wrote sold substantially more than that. So, I had zero help as far as publicizing it or, promoting it. I had help with getting it published, but I didn't have any help promoting it. And so that was just, me writing, my Facebook things and silly things like that. And there was a book signing and things like that, but I didn't have any big person helping me. And I don't necessarily this time either, except I have this format and this accountability with Blue Hat because they actually wanted, they put their name, they trusted me to put their name on my book. And that's huge. And so they're helping as best they can. But anyway, when you start reading all these names that come in, it gets real emotional because, well, one of the things Brandon Janis tells people, and he's the owner of Blue Hat, is that don't be surprised when your best friend doesn't buy your book. And what was hardest for me is that's true. I mean, I had some dear friends of mine purchase the book, and I thank you guys for that. But so many didn't, and it's brand new. It's not, and I'm hoping it's because they just want to, wait till I have it in my hand and I sign it and all those things and it's also confusing if you don't know what pre-order means and all the, it's confusing. But then also your family, your family doesn't buy your book. And they just assume you're just going to give them one because you had to buy 1,000 books. And so, and they're probably right, because people are probably going to get my book for Christmas for the rest of their lives, because and if I don't sell, 1,000 books, then I'm going to be giving them away like candy. But, it sucks, you work so hard on this, and all these emails just kept coming through and coming through. And I told him, I said, listen, I can't read that anymore. This is emotionally draining for me to see, who's buying it and who's not. It's really, and honestly, I think that is another way the devil likes to jack with you, because it's not that your family doesn't love and support you. My family lived it. They don't want to buy my book, but but the rest of my family didn't. And it would be nice if they would, perhaps check it out. But my aunt Karen bought my book. She's the only one of my family members that bought my book. My Bible study group, those girls rocked. They bought my book. But I got my first book review, and so I wanted to read it. It's from one of my Bible study babes. We'll call ourselves the Bible babes. And Kami, and we've been friends for a long time, and I adore her. The first person I got was from a local judge, and his name is John Nicholas, and he has written a book in his life, so he knows how hard it is. And so he said, I just wanted to read this to you. He said, Trish, I read your new book last night, literally in a night. And that was another thing. It's like, holy crap, it took me years to write this, and you read it in a day. So I read your new book last night. Well, actually finished it this morning. I wanted to tell you how proud I am of you and how proud you should be of yourself. It is a very good read, but I also know how much work, discipline, and effort it takes to complete such a task. The effort and passion is evident in this book. Bravo, my friend. Also, that Scarface Cowboy can add another title to his resume, book salesman. God bless. So I have some books in the office. If anybody is looking for them, you can buy them at Specialty Risk Insurance. And he said, I love that it ends with Emma still hooked. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends, because I want you to buy the book. But anyway, the next one I got was from my friend Kami. And I'm not sure I should be reading these to you guys, because I'm just going to ruin the whole thing. But she said, so I just finished your book. I started it Thursday and I finished it today. Literally, this was like 3 days. So obviously it's an easy book to read. And the people that have been reading it tell me that they can't put it down. So I love that. She said, can I just say how proud I am of you? It was so good. I found it so hard to put down because I was so hooked on Emma's story. I found myself really interested in the horses' story and feeling connected to Paisley, Makana, Rue, and all of them. Feeling sorry for them, figuring out what was happening to them, watching Emma never give up, but doing things best for her and them. You did such a great job highlighting Emma's heart and her passion. I giggled a lot throughout it, especially when she said she would win that guitar. I loved how you talked about Quincy so gentle, but so powerful. Thank you for sharing this story. Tell Emma thank you for allowing you to write it. We all need a little Emma in us, maybe a lot. I have so much respect for her. She is a wonderful human who has a marvelous mom and a hot dad. He loves the cowboy. And so that just made me feel so good. I was so pumped about that. And I just want to give a shout out to, especially to Emma, because I do. I just, obviously I didn't tell everything, but I told a lot, and it's, raw honesty, and she's been through hell and back, and, she's got an interesting story. We've had an interesting life. But I do want to thank the people that wrote for me, because at the beginning of the book, I asked actual rodeo contestants to write a glossary for me describing the event, because the people in New York City and even the editors that were reading my book, they didn't know what any of these things meant. And so they said, you have to write this to a person that doesn't understand what bulldogging is, that doesn't understand, all of this terminology. And so that is so hard when you are in and out of it every single day of your life. And then you have to read it to somebody that, never sees real stars in the sky. So this was hard, but I reached out to some people, and I had the most amazing people write for me. I have some that have made it to the NFR. Some are still trying to make it to the NFR. and some are retired that no longer do it, but were rock stars in their time, in their day, and their passion for it, and their in the different times of where they are in their life. You could tell that if things were going good, you could tell if things were going bad. I just loved their passion. And I also want to give a shout out to Stevie Hillman. She's mentioned throughout the book so much because she was so good to Emma and I in all kinds of things in the beginning. So I had Timber Allenbrand wrote the barrel racing definition for me. Jordan Joe Hollabaugh was my breakaway roping person. Team roping was by Coy Rahman. He did the heading for me. The healer was Cooper Freeman. The numbering system is Jackson Tucker. Tie down roping, the great C.R. Bradley. Saddle bronc riding, Billy Etbauer. Can you believe that? I got my friend got me Billy Etbauer. Bareback riding, Rocker Steiner. Thank you, Jamie, for that one. Also, Jess Pope. Thanks to his sweet wife, I got Jess Pope. Bulldogging, I got Talon Roseland, who's still one of the prettiest men I've ever seen in my whole life. Bull riding's Trey Holston. Steer roping is Brody Popino, and his is one of my favorites because he is so passionate about it. And so that in and of itself, just reading those people's definitions and seeing how they love their sport and how they feel about just how they write about it, it's worth buying the book just to read what those people have written. Not only that, it's a faith-based book, and we all go through trials, and we all go through mountains and hills and valleys, and this morning I started Levi Lusko's new book about gosh, I can't even think of the name of it. Something about spiraling. But it was funny because he was talking about he turned 40 and he just kind of had a mental breakdown, and because half of his life was over. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? I'm 57. I don't want to think about it like that. What do you mean half your life is over? But it was funny because we're having this thing at the office on Thursday night, and they're doing a little clothing swap. And so I was going through my closet, and you just come to a realization in your life at some point that half your life probably is over. And so you probably shouldn't be wearing halter tops anymore as a 57-year-old woman. And so I was just laughing as I was going through my closet, and I still try to buy stuff like that, like thinking this is gonna be okay. It's, there comes a point where you just need to embrace where you are in life and embrace others too. Not everybody cares about reading. And so I understand that. And I'm going to give everybody a lot of grace when they don't buy my book. And I'm going to give myself some grace too, and try not to let it hurt my feelings, because it is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. There is nothing that we have no control over anything. We really don't. We do have control over whether or not we're going to embrace the day and find the joy in the moment. And I am so happy that the people that are reading the book have loved it. I mean, I haven't gotten one bad review, and I'm so thrilled that they understand it, and that it actually has a theme and a purpose and all of those things. And that is thrilling. But I'm also going to enjoy my day to day. And I've been in the moment lately. I've been back outside, and it's so nice to be back out with the cows. As much as I hate them, I mean, it has been a pleasure. I've been checking cows with the Cowboy at night. We just ride around in our little side by sides, and I take pictures. He won't slow down long enough for me to take pictures, but I try to snap pictures as best I can, and just hanging out with him. This morning I was doing my devotional, and last Sunday, I was listening to a preacher and they said, if you could have coffee with Jesus, what would you ask him? Well, this morning, my devotional was talking about your spouse, and it said, what is something that your spouse wants more than anything in the world? Or what would, if they could have anything they wanted, what would it be? And honestly, I wrote for the cowboy, I said a back rub and French toast. I mean, that's how easy he is. If I would just give him a back rub when he comes home at night and make his favorite food, he's perfectly happy. It doesn't matter what I make. He's perfectly happy. He's hired this fabulous chef at the office, and she's really making my life a miserable hell because she cooks really great, and I haven't not eaten there yet, but I hear it's wonderful. The office is far out of town, not far, but it's a pain in the rear to drive back to town. So he has somebody on staff that cooks for everybody every day. And so I guess she's just phenomenal. But every time he comes home, I can't come. My cooking is not, I am not a chef. And so my cooking is not going to compare to this woman's. And it's just funny because it's like, it's this little, rub that he's doing to me now. It's like, well, at lunch today, I had blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you're not having that here. But how easy would it be for me to just give him a back rub when he gets home? And when I was comparing that to the thought about if you could ask Jesus anything you want, what would it be? Well, we have an opportunity to do that on a daily basis when we're interacting with each other. And so, every single person you look at every single day is an image bearer of Christ. And so how we treat them is how we treat him. And so when you think about it like that, it doesn't matter how old you are. We all only have a certain number of days, and none of us know how many they are. Only God knows that. And so we have to learn to find joy in every single day, whether we're selling books or not, whether our friends are buying our books or not, whether your people support your passion or not, you can still find joy in every single day. And you can also help others to find joy by being joy. And so I don't know if he could, I have no idea if he could have anything in the world, what it would be, but I need to ask him. And that's the other point. It's like, you don't need to have a cup of coffee with Jesus. Why don't you ask the person that you're sitting across from right now and then try to make it happen? I realize, depending on what it is, there could be a lot of money involved in such a thing, but likely it's not. Likely it's probably something just like I said for him, a back rub and French toast. And so what is it that you want to do in your life? Because we don't have all the time in the world, but we need to do it. We need to get out there and be present, be where your feet are, and do it, because we have this beautiful life. One of my favorite things I ever heard anybody say was, you can't walk on water if you don't get out of the boat. So, and I know you've heard me say that more than one time, but seriously, get out of the boat. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'm hoping I have someone that's wonderful to talk to next week and you don't just have to see me. But anyway, if you have a chance, buy my new book because it's here, and I would love for you to get to read Emma's story because it's a pretty cool one. Thanks. Have a great day.